and welcome to Recall the Midwife. We are three superfans who watch each episode of Call the Midwife and talk about it. Today, we are talking about Series 7, Episode 3. I'm Alex.
I'm Becky.
I'm Jen. A reminder that this week's episode deals with chronic degenerative disease, family separation, abortion, and addiction. So if those topics are ones you'd prefer to skip this time, we understand and hope you join us for the next one.
In this week's episode, we meet the Lunt family. Doreen Lunt is expecting her third child. Nurse Crane is concerned for her welfare, so asks her to come into clinic. Meanwhile, Sister Winifred encounters Wendy Lunt at the local school and is equally as concerned. When Nurse Crane asks Doreen to stay and see Dr. Turner, she flees the clinic, leaving Wendy and her son Kevin alone. Concerned that there is neglect or abuse at the hands of Gordon Lunt, Trixie walks them home and Gordon finally opens up to her. The family are struggling and Mr. Lunt is actually trying to protect his wife. He's concerned that she's suffering from the same mental illness as his father-in-law. Dr. Turner refers Doreen to a specialist who diagnoses Huntington's disease. We also learn that Wendy is suffering from a juvenile version of the disease. Doreen gives birth to a baby girl but struggles to care for her. Despite Trixie and Nurse Crane's best efforts, the family is torn apart. Sheila encourages Magda to befriend the girls at Nanata's house, and Magda confides in Val after learning that she's pregnant. Magda becomes increasingly more desperate, and under the guise of taking up nursing, she borrows Sheila's nursing books and steals drugs so that she can induce a miscarriage. Fred and Violet host a Miss Poplar contest to raise money for the community. And finally, Alexandra is still struggling with her parents' divorce, which leads Trixie to break off her relationship with Christopher as it's not in Alexandra's best interest. She encourages Christopher to return to his ex-wife.
And it's Alexandra.
Which is how Alex pronounces her name.
Yeah.
Girls, I have complicated feelings. I have complicated feelings about the Trixie Christopher storyline. I don't know if we're going to talk about it for a little bit, but anyways, just teasing that there.
Same. Before we start as well, I just want to say, number one, I feel like one of the three little pigs inside my house. There's a big storm going on outside, and honestly, I don't know if you can hear. I hope it doesn't interfere with the sound of the podcast, because honestly, it is so loud, the wind outside. And also, I have been at Becky's this weekend with my daughter. We came down to stay, so I've actually seen Bex this weekend. You were sorely missed, Jen.
Oh, I really wish I could be there. I'm so jealous.
I know. We had a lovely time though.
And we did watch the episode together.
We did.
You should have had a not very good time just to like make me not feel so bad.
Well, we went really, really early this morning because of this storm, and my daughter was like sobbing on the way home. I just wanted to stay a bit longer.
Oh, she's such a sensitive soul.
Well, I told her, do you know what? I lied to her actually, and I will probably do this now. So if you're listening, school, don't reprimand her. I said that we'd leave school early. I said I'd pretend that she had a dentist appointment next time and go early. She was like, "Yeah." I just don't think I could ever do that, if I'm honest. So I hope she doesn't remember that, but she will.
But maybe you'll get lucky. You never know.
Yeah. Okay, so which storyline are we doing first, Bexton?
I think we need to do the Lunt storyline because it's so heavy, and I just think we need to not get it out of the way, but I just think we should finish with some lighter stuff.
Yeah. Like
now, Becky has seen my notes on this. She asked to see my notes.
Oh my goodness. Why?
I was just curious about how, well, firstly, I take written notes. So if you ever hear page turning during one of these podcasts, it's me turning my pages of my book over.
We do. It's the bane of my editing life.
Alex takes, and I just saw them on her phone, this whole, and I was like, so I was just curious to see what notes. I mean, her notes are very random. There's just random words just in there.
Well, my first note says it's the same set as Crystal with the teeth. So the Lunts have this horrific flat that's just disgusting up the side and everything, like it's supposed to be disgusting. But Crystal with the teeth with the 4 kids, she had the same flat. I'm sure it's the same flat. And it's filthy.
Oh, you know who else's flat I thought it was, interior wise, not exterior wise, is the family where the kids were getting sick and she didn't know why, and then it turned out that the husband's family medical history revealed that they had a genetic disease, because I'm sure it's the same, because it looked like it had the exact same layout, like the bed's against the wall, the sink over in the corner. I bet you
definitely same as Crystal's as well. They've obviously just recycled it, haven't they?
I'm sure they use that flat, like with different set dressing for so many episodes.
I will do a deep dive and go back and watch those episodes and see if I can figure it out. But when we were watching the episode,
I bet my house on the Crystal one.
When we were watching the episode together, I was like, oh, I think this was Crystal's flat, and Alex was like, I thought the same, and I was like, I know you did. I really said that because I literally saw your note about it.
I'm just so forgiving and just innocent. I would never think you'd steal it, Bex, but obviously you did.
Yeah, I did.
Well, I'll tell you what else was very reminiscent of Crystal is that poor Doreen's teeth were also really in not very good condition.
And that was the
Not that that
actress.
was really the problem that she was dealing with, but they really like yellowed out her teeth too. I think I think they did it as a way to show that she had kind of let go of a lot of her
Yeah,
personal
to show
hygiene.
neglect. Exactly, yeah.
But her teeth were
Mhm.
still better than Crystal's.
Oh, way better. Way better. But I mean, like, because
Yeah.
like they made her hair greasy, they made her had like dirt on her face, like all of her
He
clothes
was
look really
nothing,
dingy.
nothing compared to Wendy and Kevin. Like the absolute ridiculousness. She looked like
Oh my
she'd
gosh.
been up a chimney, and that it was just absolutely
Oh,
ridiculous. If anything, I know it was supposed to show that she was neglected, but my God, it was absolutely
also,
ridiculous.
I'm sorry, but didn't you think it was so heartbreaking when Sister Winifred was at the school giving out the bars of soap and talking about hygiene, and then she called Wendy up because she didn't come up at the initial moment, and then Wendy clearly just fell down on the floor, and the teacher was just made the comment like, "Oh, she just keeps on tripping over herself." I'm like, "Ma'am, this child does not look like she's just accidentally clumsy. Like this looks like something so chronic. I mean, aren't you going to say anything?" And all I kept thinking the whole time was
I
just
said
like,
the same.
because I've dealt with this at my work recently, but it's like here, you're a mandated reporter, right? Like if you see something, you have to say something. You are obligated to say something. And all teachers are because they deal with children. If you see anything that like
Yeah.
really amiss with children, I'm like, how in the world are you not seeing a child who's literally going from clean, well dressed, like putting things, doing well in school to this really marked decline and not say anything? I mean, I don't know what the laws were in Britain in the 1960s, but I was just like, oh my gosh, like the way this teacher just absolutely wrote it off like it was NBD.
I will say, in Poplar, it was an area of a lot of poverty, so there will have been a lot of kids who were quite dirty. Do you know what I
But
mean? Like,
I
she
know,
was
but
bruised and like honestly, I've just put my note is that Wendy and Kevin were just such a state.
But
they really
also,
were.
like they had a history of being okay. That's the other thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it'd be one thing if they were just perpetually always like that, and it's like, well, listen, like we know the family's trying hard, but like this is the best they can do. But I mean, they made Dr. Turner made a comment about it. Trixie made like they all talked about the fact that the family used to be doing okay, and then there was a decline. So like, where's the recognition
But
of the
also, I
decline?
will
I
say,
don't know.
they saw her fall down, and I think maybe they thought, oh, she's just clumsy, rather than, when kids grow and they get a bit gangly and they fall over. So I remember falling over loads when I was little. Not little, I've never
Yeah.
been little, because I was growing
You
and stuff. And maybe because you think, oh, I don't need to report it because it's not like neglect that's happening to them at home, thinking they're not being beaten or anything. They're falling here. We can see them fall here. So we don't have to actually report anything because we don't want to start anything for no reason. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
now you can edit this if you want to, Al, but do you remember when your husband took your daughter out for running lessons to teach her to pick up her feet because she kept falling over?
Oh my goodness. So my daughter, Bobs, you've all met her on the podcast. We use her nickname on the podcast, Bobs. So she hates sports day more than anyone in this history of this world. She used to cry loads. And she was just saying, she just hated it. And she's just, I don't like it. I just can't run. I just don't run as fast as everyone else. When actually she could. So my husband was like, right, why do you think you can't run? And she was like, I just can't lift my little feet very well. And all this. So yeah, he took her onto the field in this big park we have, and also in the garden and everything. And they had running lessons to make her pick her feet up to kind of Wendy could do with my husband
She's
teaching
got
her
to do
that.
those calisthenics where it's like you have to like stand in one place and then like touch your knees to your hands, but your hands
Well,
can't
the
go below
irony
your
was,
waist,
Jen,
and then like
she wasn't even slow and she wasn't even rubbish. I think she just didn't want to do it, and that was her excuse because then she came second in the race. Like so,
oh
Yeah, and we're kindred spirits in that respect, I think.
yeah. I think Bob's just is sometimes she just decides she doesn't want to do something and then it's like you're not going to get her out of it and then she's going to use every trick in the book to try to
that's 1000% her. Yes, and horribly, it's just like me. So
the
she
apple
is her
doesn't
mother's
fall very far
daughter.
from the tree. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What
Oh
broke,
man.
let's go back to the lunch though, what broke my heart with Wendy and Kevin is when they were saying that their mum didn't love them anymore.
Oh.
Oh, I know. That's way, way far down the line though in the story. But so let's just like go back for a second. I mean, that is really heartbreaking. But basically, their mom is pregnant and she's getting close to the end. Phyllis goes to see her. She recommends maternity home because she thinks that Mrs. Lunt is just kind of overwhelmed with, the responsibilities of daily caregiving. And then when Mr. Lunt comes in as she's doing her home visit, she tells him that and he's like, no, she can't. And she's like, well, I really think it's a good idea. And he's like, no, it's not happening. And so then she's like, So she goes back, and then they come in for a visit. Oh, and then Sister Winifred notices Wendy falling over at school. They come into the visit for the clinic. Phyllis follows up, and she just is like, well, I think Dr. Turner should come and see you. Like, just wait here, after she had done her kind of, just general checkup. And Mrs. Lunt just bolts, like literally leaves her kids at clinic, like with sitting eating digestives and juice.
They're looking like chimney sweeps. Just sat
yeah,
there.
exactly. And she goes and she's gone, and then they're closing up for the day. And Trixie and
they've
Phyllis
literally been left all day.
Yeah, for hours they've been just sitting there,
but they didn't even go to school either. They were not even going to school. They just were in a clinic, just sat there having a cup of tea and a cake.
Exactly. And then the thing that was I get why they did it, although I was like, oh, Phyllis, this was really the wrong choice, is that they come in and Trixie's like, are you all right, sweeties? And they're like, well, where's our mom? And she's like, oh, hold on a second. And then Phyllis comes out and she's like, can I talk to you for a second? And then Trixie says yes. So they go around the corner, but they're literally the kids, there's a huge cutout window between the room that the kids are in and the kitchen, and the kids can hear and see everything that they're saying. And Phyllis is like, the mom just left them here. I don't think something's really wrong with their household. And Trixie's like, oh no. And then Phyllis is like, yeah, can you take them home and basically do a home visit, because I'm really worried. And Trixie says yes. And so then that's when she takes them back to the house, and Mr. Lunt lets them in, and he's like, oh yeah, come on kids, or whatever. So the kids go in, and then Trixie's like, well, I really want to see Doreen. And he says, no, she's sleeping. And then she puts her foot in the door and is like, I'll wait, which good on Trixie for being firm about it. She gets in there and she's like, what's going on? I'm really worried. And he spills the whole beans. And then that's when you find out that something really, is off. And she encourages her to go talk to Dr. Turner, for real.
She was so good for being that forceful as well. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up
definitely.
to that point, we don't know what's going on. We think that Mr. Lunt is just being really controlling.
Yeah.
But actually, when Trixie goes, Mrs. Lunt is actually asleep, and he's actually just trying to protect her.
And he's embarrassed. He's embarrassed about the state of the house. He's really trying to protect her. It just goes to show you don't actually know what's going on behind the surface. We without that scene with Trixie, we would have carried on just thinking he was this abusive husband.
Yeah.
Or just neglectful parents generally. But really,
but it's
that
the way
wasn't
he
the
was
case
like,
at
she's
all.
not going anywhere, nurse. He was quite, he was quite forceful with it.
Yeah.
And actually, Nurse Crane was very good not to jump to conclusions, because she said something's going on. I don't know what, but she didn't immediately leap to conclusions.
No, and it was her who actually was told by him, she's not going anywhere.
Well, and then she does go see Dr. Turner, who then recommends her to go to a different specialist at St. Cuthbert's, I think it was. And that specialist comes back with this diagnosis of Huntington's chorea. And it's CHOREA, which I didn't get a chance to look up anything about that disease. Did either of you girls happen to know anything about it, other than what they gave us on the show?
Well, oh, go on.
You go.
Well, I actually watched Neighbours, which I know you probably shouldn't get all of your medical advice off TikTok, Call the Midwife or Neighbours. Well, actually, Call the Midwife is probably the most reliable. But in Neighbours, there's a big storyline because Chloe in Neighbours has got Huntington's, and they have actually gone quite in depth on that. She's just got married, and she was supposed to be wearing these heels, and she couldn't walk in them for the wedding and stuff. So they are going through it, because they showed her mum dying of it as well, saying that it was genetic. That's how I knew. So they have actually, I will say, Neighbours, shout out to Neighbours, amazing. They did a really sympathetic, lovely storyline. It wasn't lovely, obviously. Her mum had died of Huntington's, but they showed it and how the repercussions of it and the emotional effect on all the families and everything on it. So I do know a bit about it only because of Neighbours, though, and that's why.
So I did do some research. So it's a degenerative disease. It's where the nerve cells in the brain break down. So it affects movement, it affects thinking, and it can cause psychiatric disorders. And we see this in Doreen's storyline, because she struggles, obviously, with the fact that Wendy's made the comment that her mum doesn't love her anymore. Once she actually gives birth to her daughter, so she has another little girl, she just wants to hold her. She's not interested in feeding her. She's not changing her nappy. So it can lead to a lack of emotion, so not recognizing the needs of others. So with the new baby, that's exactly that. Apathy, so appearing lazy, or that there's a lack of interest in self-care, and also a difficulty concentrating, which is what we see with Wendy when she's at school.
Yeah, and they also show her history. She was really good at sewing, and she was a real proud homemaker and everything beforehand.
Yes.
Well, I just did a quick Google while I was listening to you, Bex, and I think I've heard of it referred to as Huntington's disease, although it's very rare. It says fewer than 200,000 cases in the US per year. So, have you guys ever known anyone who's had it in real life?
One of my parents' friends does.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it sounds like it's not, although this is really sad, it typically starts in a person in their 30s or 40s, which is really young.
Yeah. Well, she was, I'd say 30s, early 30s.
Yeah, definitely. So she was kind of on target for it. I mean, yeah, it's a very, very serious and sad degenerative disease, and
And
it
it's
was
the
really
fact that there's no
heartbreaking.
treatment for it.
Well, I think because it's so rare is the vibe I
Yeah.
got from Dr. Turner. He was like, look, unfortunately, because just not many people have this, it's just not something that we really have a lot of insight on. It sounds like it's not the same, but it's potentially, I mean, no one's going to be surprised when I say I'm not a doctor, but
Are you joking?
it gives me
What?
a little bit of a sense of like a Parkinson's or an Alzheimer's. You know what I mean? Like a disease that ends up affecting your overall health, but it starts with a degenerative brain condition, because again, this is just Google, but it says the basal ganglia region of the brain is affected by it, and then it has a little diagram, and it looks like the part of the brain kind of, I don't know. I was going to say on the inside, but that's not going to be helpful to anyone. But anyways,
I just need to say, Jen does give us medical advice. Like, someone's got something going on, she does text. She's like, I've seen this thing on TikTok. And that's what you want in a doctor. Someone who goes, yeah, it gives me a sense of Parkinson's.
It's on your brain, on the inside.
Well, you know how there's like your whole brain, okay? And then like on the okay, like think of an app again. Oh no, I'm not even gonna say it. I'm just gonna embarrass
let's leave
myself.
that there. Also, can we talk about poor little Wendy? Oh, this broke my heart that Wendy was diagnosed.
Well,
She
Wendy is already
like
symptomatic,
11.
and she's like, yeah, I know. I know. And the thing is, that's really tragic is there's not much that can be done for her either, but also like she can't stay at home because she's going to need such intensive care.
Yeah. And she went to a
Oh, it was so
residential care
sad.
place that me and Bex were watching it, and Bex was like, doesn't that look lovely? And I was thinking, yeah, it does, especially compared to where she's come from. And I really do hope that
Oh,
places like that were as lovely, but
Well,
I
she
don't
does say
know.
when
I
she
hope
gets there
so.
that everybody looks happy, but I just wish they could have been kept together as a family unit.
yeah.
I know, but I mean, think what would have been involved in that. I mean, I don't know that there's any social service structure that's set up to take care of a family with that kind of situation. I mean, the tragedy was they did what was right, which I do agree with, but it was truly such a painful
Well, yeah,
solution.
because Mr. Lunt was just begging. Gordon was just begging with them. And he's just like, oh, bless you.
No, I know. I mean, my only hope was that they could visit Wendy and potentially, I don't know how they would have kept in touch with the baby, but
Well,
just
hopefully they'll keep Kevin because they do try and keep families together. So hopefully Kevin and did we find it? We didn't know what the baby was named.
No,
it's just it was a little
Alexandra.
girl, right?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't named Alexandra.
The photo I found as well, because I mean we know it's been mentioned the fact that Mrs. Lunt is kind of a shadow of a former self, but when Mr. Lunt's looking at the photograph of her when she's at the seaside,
Yeah.
and that just it was like night and day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the two parts of that really broke my heart were, and it just hit me when I was watching that scene was that they were talking about their early, like life together. And I just thought this is exactly what those marriage vows say, in sickness and in health, like for richer, for poor, all of that, you sign up for whatever comes and you just have no idea what you're going to get in life. None of us do anyway, regardless if we're with anybody else, but especially when you get married, you're promising all of this stuff and they really, they had a tough outcome. But then the other one that really broke my heart, but in a positive way, but it was also still like so bittersweet, was that Doreen was really struggling with all these issues with her body. But then when her and Phyllis delivered the baby, Phyllis said, something to her about, do you want blah, blah, blah? And she said, no, I just want to be, Phyllis asked if she wanted music on. And she said, no, I just want peace and quiet. My body knows what it's doing. I think I know my way around this by now. And then she basically just used her experience and her instinct and her, everything like that to deliver the baby, very healthfully, very successfully. And it was kind of the last opportunity she was going to get to almost
Have
do
control.
mothering
Yeah.
responsibilities, I guess.
Yeah, but also control
which,
over her body. She's actually got, the control
yeah,
over it. What's the word I'm looking
yeah.
for? There's a word I'm
I,
looking for that one of you can probably think for me. I'm really tired.
yeah. Well, I mean, she had her own ability there. I mean, so I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah.
Autonomy.
Autonomy. There we go. Autonomy.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I
Oh
will
man.
say, Mr. Lunt does put a lot of pressure on Trixie to try and keep the family together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Trixie
did
felt the pressure.
Yeah, and I did think that it was really like to me when he came to her and said, please can you just help us get the house in order before you call the social workers in so that we can have a fighting chance of like, putting this together. And she said, "Yes, I will, but then whatever they recommend, we have to follow that and you have to take their help, from that point on because, basically like I can't hold your life together for you." And he said, "Okay." And then they did their best. They cleaned the whole place. They got everything like put together. And I don't know if it was a deleted scene for me, but basically whatever they did was unfortunately was not enough. And so the determination was made that the children did have to be removed. And then they came to do it. And then he was begging. He was like, "Please don't take us, don't separate us." And oh, it was,
Well, there was
oh,
two
I always
scenes that
say
killed
this.
me. Number one, the scene where Wendy left and she was just basically like, my mum's not bothered at all. But and her mum was bothered. She came out and brought out a scarf, and I think that showed to Wendy like she
Yeah.
does love me. And
Well, she
also
literally
when
said, "I love you" in that.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I know, but also the fact that she'd been thinking about it rather than just like, just saying it.
oh, sure, sure, sure.
But also the scene that we've spoken about briefly where Wendy and Trixie went to their home that Wendy was going to. And she was saying, everyone looks happy. I'm sure they're all contented little souls. Then why do they put them in here? Because it's for the best. And it's just like Trixie said, because it's for the best.
Mm.
And it was like food for thought for her, for Kevin and the baby at the end as well, because obviously it was for the best Wendy happening, but then obviously they couldn't keep the other two because they just literally couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
oh, it just absolutely killed me. It just killed me. I was just burst into tears. I was just like, they're so sad. And obviously, I wasn't even there. I'm just watching a TV show.
Yeah.
Trixie
Yeah.
technically wasn't living it, but was living it, and that's why it affected her so badly. But killed me.
It's really hard. It's really hard. I mean, breaking up a family, even with very, very, very good reasons to do so, is really, really painful. And I just deeply related to Trixie in this storyline, and I felt like so much for her because it's really, really heavy. And even if you're doing the right thing, it's really not easy. And their story was very sad. I mean, there were like glimmers of goodness kind of sprinkled throughout, but overall, man, that one. Oh man.
Thing is, though, we say this all the time. It was just so dark and just so really heavy. We say it every single
Yeah.
episode. We're like, oh, this is a big one. They all are.
They
I
all
know,
are,
but
yeah.
I just think this one with them being like for Kevin, because he's gone from everybody in his family being well to a situation where he's been removed from the family.
Yeah.
There's just been this slow deterioration, and then he's been removed from the family. I mean, the baby's never going to know any different, and hopefully Kevin and the baby will stay together.
Mm.
But yeah, and then for Mr. Lunt and Doreen left, they've gone from being a family of 5 to then being the 2 of them again.
Well, and Dr. Turner says there's probably only going to be a few years left where she's going to be able to be at home with you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's looking at, some intensive caregiving for her over the next few years. And then she's probably going to have to go somewhere to get the care that she'll need for the remainder of her life. And then he's going to be not he I mean, he can stay with her, but that's going to shape his future in a major, major way as well. So, I mean, this was a really tough one.
It was.
I will say, I mean, I've made this point before, so this is not original, but our society, I'll say specifically Western culture, but even more specifically American culture, really likes to focus on the positive, the easy things in life. A lot of our entertainment is geared towards that. Or if it's geared towards, quote, tough things, it's like action movies where there's violence or hardship, but they're all under this kind of entertainment guise. But the show is very entertaining, but it really also shows a lot of the harsh and complicated realities that people are dealing with every single day. And this to me was one of those things where I thought if someone watched this episode, if they'd never had any interaction with this, but they actually gave themselves 5 or 10 minutes to think about it, you would really be able to confront some of the really challenging aspects of this and then maybe have more compassion and empathy for the fact that none of these decisions are made in black and white. I mean, we've talked about this many times, but there's not really right answers necessarily to a lot of situations, but we all have to kind of interrogate it within our own selves of like, how do we think it's best to approach these kind of matters and what do we want to do for people who are really in crisis? And even if we're not directly affected, I think it's important for us to just as people to be thinking about the kind of culture and society that we want to live in and then be able to hopefully show up for each other and support it so that everyone can do their best, I guess.
Vote for Jen.
Yeah.
I just, I mean, the thing that I
I would
feel,
vote for you.
well, thank you. Maybe I'll run for office. I just do think though that like a lot of people struggle in isolation, and this show, highlights the fact that we're really a community. And so I just sometimes do think that we need to remember that, that like we're all more connected in each other. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. I'm on it every
Speaking
week,
about
so
struggling, shall we go on to Trixie regarding this?
yes.
So Trixie really struggled with this whole, not storyline, it's not a storyline to her, this whole
Her real life, her
family,
work, her professional life.
situation. And she also had the hassle of Christopher's whole situation going on as well. So it wasn't like she was having an easy time at all.
Okay.
No.
I want to hear what you girls think about it before I offer my 2 cents.
Well, let's
Nice.
go on, you go
Set
back.
the scene, yeah. So Alexandra is having nightmares. She's been wetting herself at school. She's really struggling. Her mum wants her to see a psychiatrist. And she does go and see a psychiatrist.
Yeah, because the psychiatrist said she doesn't have to see if she doesn't want to.
No, so she needs some fixed rules. So Christopher can't pick her up from school because then Alexandra's having to deal with the stigma of divorce. She shouldn't have to see Trixie if she doesn't want to. I think that's coming from the ex-wife rather than.
Well, do you know what annoyed me though? He's telling this to Trixie, right? And then Alexandra comes bounding up about 2 seconds later. Why is he telling her this while Alexandra's there? Why is he not doing it? And now Alexandra says, I want to go home now, Daddy. Well, yeah, of course you do, because you're talking about your whole life, about the fact you're wetting yourself on a bench with your new girlfriend who your mum says is a tart.
And Trixie is very clear that she told Christopher that she didn't want to be introduced to Alexandra if it wasn't going to be good for her.
Yeah.
So Trixie has been fully on the right page with this. Christopher has not.
Yeah, Christopher only cares about his own feelings though, doesn't he?
Just a quick question though. Do you guys have any sense of how long he's been divorced?
No, well, I thought because obviously he said divorced when they first met.
Yeah.
So I presumed, because obviously you can't just get a divorce happening really quick, especially in the UK in the 60s.
Right,
so I thought
exactly.
maybe he'd been divorced for months or a year or something like that.
If they're divorced, at least a year, I would say.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah, and wait, how old do we think Alexandra is?
I thought about
7. I thought she's like, oh, okay. I thought she was like 8 or 9.
She might be.
I'm gonna go 7 or 8.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So anyway, so he did that, and then she's complaining about this whole situation to Christopher on another scene after this whole situation with Alexandra, where he's obviously annoyed about this whole situation. But also, I don't feel like he's a bit like, oh, my ex-wife's trying to do it. He doesn't really center on Alexandra still. He's just very like, this is frustrating and annoying for him. And then
let's just say though,
go on.
The follow-up conversation they have is she's feeling sad because she's just separated the Lunt family.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in the allotment, and he's kind of comforting her after that. So she's already
and he says,
like,
I wish your job didn't hurt you so much.
Yeah.
And
do you know, my biggest insight on this was the fact that she was sat on the bench to hide her bump, and she was holding a jacket in front of her bump.
Oh, it was very bump hiding. The bump was out, girls. This week, from now on, she's really hiding the bump. I think she might only be here for another episode, right? Before she goes on maternity leave. Helen George.
Maybe.
Because the bump is getting a bit. She's got like a lot of like purses in front of her tummy and like,
So anyway, so he's like, oh, I wish your job didn't hurt you so much. And she's like, well, I'm really glad you said that because I'm dumping you, basically. I'm supposed to be, I feel like this was really supposed to be moving and like amazing for a scene by Trixie, and it was. She acted it amazingly. But she's like basically saying that she wants him to go back to his wife. Well, he's divorced. He's literally, it's not like he's just walked out. He's divorced her. And she's like, you need to go back to your wife.
I'm sorry. I thought that was insane.
Weird, isn't it?
That was the most nuts. That was the most nuts thing for her to say. The thing that sorry, well, I don't want to. Okay, you guys want to say more
Alexandra? I'm all for putting Alexandra front and center because she should be front and center because obviously she's the most important person here.
Yeah.
But to go back to Moira, who's apparently a bitter woman, but to go back to her after a divorce, that's just absolutely insanity to me.
Yeah. My note is that it's not going to be a happy house. Just going back to it doesn't solve all the problems. Doesn't solve the problems of why they divorced in the first place.
No.
Oh, okay.
I can't see it's going to be a good environment for Alexandra. If those Moira and Christopher do end up back together, that's not going to be a good environment. It's not going to solve Alexandra's issues. She's just going to grow up in an unhappy home.
Yeah.
Yes. here's my hot take, okay? I get that Trixie feels for Alexandra. I think she's clearly self-identifying a lot with that little girl and
Yes,
putting herself into that
100%.
place. Like, which
100%.
makes a lot of sense because she's, just she's churned up in a major way this week. So I get it. But I'm sorry, like, if you don't want to be with Christopher because you feel like your relationship isn't working and it's harming his daughter, like, that's fine. But to me, to tell your boyfriend that he needs to go back to his wife, like, that was the most crazy thing.
Well,
Like,
his ex-wife as
like,
well.
and that's why I asked the questions about like the divorce and everything. I'm like, he has actively divorced this woman. They went through the whole thing. He's been divorced from her for however long, like a year, however long we thought. Like, you're gonna tell her to go back? Like, there's no way in which that worked. Now, I'll just say, like, I am very blessed. Like, my parents were married for 45 years. Like, they were very much in love 100% of the time. Like, I grew up in a house that never experienced that separation. You guys too, I know. But the thing I have heard over and over and over again from the many, many people I know who did grow up with divorced parents is that, like, yes, it was really, really hard, but I've heard many stories about I was either really grateful when my parents got divorced because they were already unhappy so much together. And so them separating both made them a lot happier. But also, like, whatever the reasons were for getting divorced, making two unhappy people stay together is also not a great idea to do. And I can't see how Alexandra would do better and feel better if then her parents who didn't want to be together were brought back together out of some guilt feeling that they had to be together for her only, which is literally the only reason why they would be back together in the first place. I was like, that's not going to stop the trauma. That's not going to stop the bedwetting. That's not going to stop all the anxiety and everything else that she's coping with right now.
To add
If
to
anything
this
else, it's gonna make
ridiculous
it
situation,
worse.
to add to this very unhappy situation all round, Trixie then, after abstaining and doing Alcoholics Anonymous, started
Yeah.
drinking again. She literally couldn't cope. She was really
Yeah.
upset because obviously not only had she had this situation with the Lunts, then she dumped Christopher, who she really did love, and had given herself to in a hotel room. That was a weird way of saying it, but I'm keeping it in. And given herself to, you know what I mean? She'd
We
said
know what you
before
mean.
she'd never done it, and anyway, yeah. But they'd obviously intimated that they had done it. So this is a serious relationship for her, and she's just dumped him, told him to go back to his ex-wife, Moira, the bitter woman, and now she's drinking. So that's a really awful situation.
Well, and I did feel for Christopher because he was like, look, he's like, we love each other so much. How could I give all this up to try to, he's like, there's no relationship with my ex-wife. Like, we're divorced, And I mean, and she was just like, well, sorry, figure it out. I mean, I appreciate that she was like, put your daughter first. And if being with me isn't really working because your daughter is suffering for it, then I don't want us to be together because I want to
Give
make sure
all
that
your free time to Alexandra.
Yeah, because he's like, she said, she's like, no matter what, your kid is always going to be the priority, like, full stop, as it should be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was just like, you can't tell him what to, I was like, there's no world in which that man is going back to his wife. And also, I'm sorry, I really feel for Alexandra. I know that at this time period, divorce is really taboo and like very unusual. And I'm sure she does really feel, like she's, like she doesn't fit in, all that kind of stuff like that. Again, I'm glad she's in therapy, but like the fact of the matter is that she needs to work on being able to cope with what's going on in her life. She can't like expect that her parents are going to get back together.
Yeah. No, it's true. He just needs to put his time into her rather than Trixie. I think that was a better way of saying it rather than go back to your wife.
Yeah, exactly.
We should quickly mention, we've already spoken about Trixie falling off the wagon. And we know that the reason that she's going to fall off the wagon is so that she can go into rehab and in real life have a baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I do think it is helpful for her storyline to show that she's fallen, because I think with addiction, it's not just a linear recognize you've got a problem.
Yeah, it's something you're dealing with the rest of your life.
Yeah, it is a constant struggle. And I think it just kind of shows the
realities of it.
Yeah, the reality that is.
Although I will say she's got more restraint than me, because I would have just drunk it out straight after the cocktail shaker, but she poured it into a glass. She's more refined than me.
But we both said this. We were like, I'd have just drunk it straight out of the cocktail shaker.
Yeah, I don't want to wash up.
Yeah, I think she was also trying to like see if she could stop herself too. You know what I mean? I think there was something about creating more steps where she kept on kind of pausing and being like, "Am I going to do this? Am I going to do this?" And then, at least that's the impression I got. Because I mean,
that's a good shout.
Yeah, I think it was really painful for her. I mean, I think she was really, like she wanted it, but then she didn't, and she probably felt very conflicted and everything like that. I mean, I have never been in her situation, but I just have to think that there's gotta be a real, I mean, because she's been sober for, well, in the grand scheme of things, really not that long. I think maybe a couple of years, but I mean, she's also been sober for a couple of years. So, I mean, that's a big thing to let go of, like just, all of that sobriety, I mean, it's never like down the tubes. I don't really think that way, but I'm just saying like she's going to have to start from scratch again in terms of, kind of the way that the
Time
program
length,
works.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's really tough. And I think she was like, she really didn't want to do it, but clearly she'd really hit rock bottom. I mean, she'd gone through that really painful professional experience, really painful personal experience, poor thing. I just really felt for her.
Yeah, 100%.
Should we talk about Magda?
Oh, poor Magda.
I love Magda.
Yeah, Magda is completely settled living with the Turners. She's totally taking control.
She's so glamorous with it. She's there running the whole house, getting all the kids ready. She's just so glam.
Yeah, but what gets me is, so Sheila says to Magda, and she also mentions to Val that she wants the girls to kind of befriend Magda because she's on her own. And Val says, oh, she's just so glamorous. Val and Trixie are just as glamorous as Magda.
They are.
Yes, I wouldn't say Val is as glamorous. Does great, but she's a more regular girl, I think.
I think she's
Sorry. I mean, look, Val, it's not about beauty or anything like that. It's just Valerie is just much more of like a regular poplar girl. You know what I mean? She says it all the time. Like her fashions are more, I don't know. I don't see, I mean, Valerie does have glamour, but I don't see her as like a glamorous woman the way Trixie is a glamorous woman or the way Magda is glamorous. Sorry. I don't know. I'm not trying to be rude to Val, but
no, I think Alex and I were possibly comparing Val to ourselves and
oh, in comparison to myself, yes, Val is incredibly glamorous. Yes, definitely.
So there's a scene where, so obviously Val befriends Magda and they meet at the Keep Fit class and everything's great. But there's a scene so that she invites them to Magda to Donato's house for them to kind of get ready and stuff to go out. And there's a scene where Magda talks about her journey, how she got there, how she actually got from Hungary to Paris and then obviously here.
Oh my goodness. I didn't have that part.
Oh my god. Well, it's her with Lucille and Val and Trixie, and they're all sat there talking. And she's talking about her journey. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Who's Lucille?
Lucille, the midwife.
Oh, geez. Oh, I forgot. Oh my God. Okay, sorry, girls. Sorry.
I love Lucille. Anyway,
I love her too. I just forgot. Sorry.
So anyway, but they were talking about Magda's journey and the way she described this journey through the Iron Curtain and everything. It was absolutely, I was just in shock. I was just like, that is absolutely insane. And then she was talking about how she fell in love and she really loved him and everything was great. And they were like, oh, what happened? And then she showed a scar on the back of her head.
Wait, what does that mean?
So she'd met this boyfriend in Paris and they'd been going out with each other and he'd basically hit her and like she had this massive, like it was like an inch long scar, wasn't it? On her hairline. And she says that he gave it to her because he thought she was flirting with one of his friends.
So she obviously got out of that relationship because he was abusive.
Oh no, this was definitely a deleted scene for us. That's such a bummer. Okay.
But she says that she's free now to meet Sean Connery, who's obviously the heartthrob of the time.
Oh, now Magda could bag Sean Connery for sure.
Well, hang on.
But Sean Connery, I mean, it's overlooked now because he would be cancelled nowadays. He was abusive to his first wife. He's publicly said he thinks it's okay to hit women and put them in their place.
It was a huge thing.
He publicly said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in interviews.
He's been on the record. Google it, seriously.
Oh, no.
Because me and Bex both thought the exact same thing on that scene. I was like, oops.
Wait, what? Maybe this. Oh, wait. So he said it a long time ago, or do you think he said it in like later years and that it was?
He said both.
He said it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So really, they should have picked somebody else all along for that. Like, heartthrob.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no.
But this is where I think it's just been overlooked with Sean Connery because when he passed and there were all these obituaries about Sean Connery, I was like, hang on, he wasn't such a nice guy.
Yeah, me and I remember actually, I think we text each other about it, Bex.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
so look, I really do think in popular culture, he's just renowned for being James Bond.
Yeah. I will say, like, we love James Bond in
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. I mean, we've watched a lot of the Bond movies and I've seen a lot of the ones with him in it. I will say, even without this particular information that I did not have until a few minutes ago, those movies they're kind of tough to watch at times. I mean, sometimes they just don't age well because the action or whatever is not that great, but also like some of the tropes in the movies are they feel not really good. And I will say, like, with like the most recent Bond, it's like more tongue in cheek and more like haha, like we're saying it but we don't really mean it or whatever, that's very clear. But at that time, like, it's like, no, we really do mean it, and that is kind of uncomfortable in terms of like,
I've never seen a Bond film.
Not any of them.
No, it just doesn't appeal to me. It just seems toxic and masculine, and it's not for me. Toxic masculinity is not for me.
Literally zero Bond films ever in your whole life, not even the new ones.
Zero ever in my whole life, not even the new ones.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, there you go.
It just don't appeal. I just can't be bothered. It's a waste of life. I'd rather rewatch it, Call the Midwife for the first 50th time.
Knowing what kind of popular culture you consume, and then you saying it's a waste of life. It's absolutely
just for people who are listening who don't realise I have terrible, terrible, terrible taste in films and TV. Call the Midwife is basically my most highbrow thing I think I watch. And let's be honest, it's pretty highbrow.
Oh my god, it is highbrow. It is highbrow. Well,
okay, so I'm making myself out to be thick here. I'm not thick. I just have very lowbrow taste.
You just have a wide taste in culture.
Also, it's not like whatever we like to consume. It's not about intelligence. It's just whatever we enjoy. I mean,
I know, but people will think I'm thick from like if they look.
It's escapism as well, isn't it? Like you're not there. You're not watching it to educate yourself. You're watching it just to relax after a long day.
To entertain, yeah. Also, by the way, people who make judgments like that they're not worth anybody's time.
In the bin, you big judges.
Yeah, they're not worth anything if they're going to be looking at people that way. That's so rude, honestly. But I will say, at least Sean Connery makes sense as like a celebrity crush of that time period. Yes. So I get that.
So Magda's talking about this guy who she's left in Paris. So obviously that was her last boyfriend, and it was very passionate. They're very in love, she said. But obviously then she's had to leave, and she was so matter of fact about it. If anything, quite happy about it. Like she got out of it. She was quite pleased, wasn't she, Bex, in this scene?
Yeah.
But she's very resilient.
So she goes to the women's advice clinic to inquire about contraception. Now she's not seeing anyone. So do you think she knew she was pregnant and she's gone there?
No, I definitely do not think she knew she was pregnant. She looks shocked when the lady tells her, "I think you're pregnant."
Yeah, 2 months pregnant as well.
I think she's getting it because, well, this is my impression.
Belt and braces.
I thought Magda was like, look, I'm in London, I'm hot, I'm like young, I'm like, I get Saturdays off, I'm gonna have fun, just like I had fun in France, and I'm gonna find somebody who's better than the guy I dated before, and I'm gonna live my life. Like, it's the swinging 60s. Like, I think she was like, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. Like, I just want to be protected, which is why I'm gonna tell a story about how I have a fiance. Like, I think she was just like a young modern gal.
She's 2 months too late.
I know. She should have gotten her birth control in France before.
Yeah, but she might have done. It might have just not proved effective.
Not worked. Yeah, it might not have worked. Yeah.
So then she says to the doctor, "What can I do? In Hungary, it's legal up to 12 weeks."
Yeah.
And
which I was really shocked by. I thought, wow, way to go, Hungary, that you've got that
it's more
policy
progressive
at that
than
time.
we are.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the point as well, because she talks about escaping the Iron Curtain, but actually, in that way, Hungary is so much more progressive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then the doctor says there is no fiance, is there? Well, flipping heck, thanks for that, doctor. Really, really amazing insight. Thanks for that. Trying to make me feel even worse while I'm down.
Oh, yeah. Although, I mean, I will say, like, it makes sense that she'd be like, well, just talk to your fiance about it. Like, maybe you tend to get married early, because she clearly took Magda at her word that she was.
I know, but it's just
engaged,
the way she's like, there is no fiance, is there? Like, it's just like,
well,
all right, Sherlock.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where any of us would go after, if you're asking these questions, because I don't know. I didn't think she didn't say it in a very like compassionate way, but at the same time, like, come on, she's not stupid. She's gonna figure it out.
But she confides in Val, and Val annoys me here.
Why?
Because Val just says, well, firstly, she says, because Magda asks her if she knows somebody that she can go to, so basically get a backstreet abortion. And Val just says to her, just put that out of your mind, as if that's ever helped any young woman before, just putting it out of your mind. Telling the Turners, if women had people they could turn to, they wouldn't be getting backstreet abortions.
Well, also, little does Val know, she knows someone very well who can do it.
She does. But I just think Val surely understands the desperate measures that forces women into these situations. Like, just saying, promise me you'll talk to the Turners when she doesn't think, the fact that she's talked to Val in the first place and not Sheila.
I will say, I think, unfortunately, the scene doesn't give it this context, but if Val had said to Magda, as I think she should have, go talk to the Turners, here's why, because, even though, blah, 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 like, they're actually way more, the Turners, I don't think, like, Dr. Turner was going to, like, give her an abortion or anything like that, but I do think that if anyone was going to understand, sympathize, and try to find a way to help her out of anybody that she ever could have worked for, it would be the Turners. I mean, that's the thing that Val knows about them. She knows that they're not just kind of a regular couple the way that, a lot of other people would be. And they're both medical professionals. They've seen this kind of thing many, many, many times before. They get it. I don't think they would have like helped her get an abortion or given her an abortion, but they at least would have been able to like help her deal with it in a positive way. Again, maybe she still would have come to the same outcome, but that was like what Val didn't say to her, which I think was she should have said, because that's the context that would have made the most sense in terms of then Magda actually following through with Val's advice. But at the same time, I'm not mad at Val for telling her not to get a backroom abortion. Those things are horrible. And there's no way Val in good conscience could have said, like, absolutely don't even consider that. That's the worst thing you could ever think of, because there's no way she could have said otherwise. I mean,
I'm not suggesting that Val should have pointed her in that direction, but I just think it was rubbish advice from Val just to put it out of your mind.
Well, but she should have put it out of her mind. I mean, we've seen now multiple women who have suffered horribly, like almost dying, infertile for life, criminal charges. I mean, there's been multiple storylines in the show where like those backroom abortions lead to literally even worse tragedy than just the pregnancy that was already a tragedy for these women in their lives already. Like, I don't think I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think Val telling her that was bad advice. It was absolutely appropriate advice. It wasn't advice that ultimately was helpful to her because she didn't want that, but there's no way Val in good conscience could have said, like, okay, well, yeah, I get it. I get what you mean. Like, let me try to find you the best of a bad bunch or something.
I'm saying that she should have done that, but what I'm saying was the advice she gave to just talk to the Turners, I think she
should have said more. She should have said something different and better about why she should talk to the Turners, for sure, because it's like Magda doesn't know the Turners like Val does, so I mean,
can I just say something, you two? It's a really serious situation going on, and I've been lulling this end because you're both being very expressive with your hands, right? And Zoom has taken that for you two giving thumbs up. So on your screen, when you two are doing this big, massive, like arguing, not arguing, you know what I mean, debate on here, you both got thumbs up in like emoji. I've been absolutely lolling here. Sorry, carry on. If only we did film this.
I know.
Oh,
I mean, I think overall we both agree, but I do get your point. But anyway, yeah.
The problem is, I absolutely get your point as well. The problem is, there's nothing they could have done, because either way, she still wouldn't have been happy, even if she'd explained, well, they can maybe think of different ways.
Exactly.
He did not want to keep this baby, so all she wanted to do was try and get an abortion, and they would never have helped to facilitate that. And I thought maybe they could have flown her back to Hungary, but they couldn't, could they? Because she had escaped illegally, and it just, there was no good way apart from her getting a backstreet abortion in her mind, I'm guessing.
Well, and again, I mean, the thing that was just, again, so painful is that for this woman, there is no other option than not having this baby. Like, she is absolutely desperate and determined that she is not going to continue this pregnancy. And when that's how you feel, when that's the only way out for you, any other situation is just not going to work. And to deny her a safe way to end a pregnancy is truly the crime here. I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. And it's just so sad the lengths that she went to make that happen. I mean, she almost could have died. Even Dr. Turner says it.
Little did Dr. Turner and Sheila know that Sheila did actually help Magda in the end.
Unwittingly, yes. Oh, but also Claxon come away because she says, I think it's come away, when she's like laying on the dirt in the allotment, and Val and Sheila run up to her after.
I've got that written here because she injected herself in the leg with ergometrin, which is where the chocolate's also kept, apparently.
Well, she stole ergometrin from Dr. Turner's bag. That wasn't a big enough dose. Then we also need to talk about the Miss Poplar 1963 contest. While everybody's there, she goes to Nanasi's house and she breaks in. She doesn't break in, she walks in.
But she doesn't
she steals some ampules of ergometrin and injects herself. She's like fumbling and she breaks. Sister Monica Joan is alerted to the sound of breaking glass.
Yeah.
And Sister Monica Joan knows exactly what's going on and exactly where she's gone.
Yeah.
But I would have taken it back to the Turner's house.
Yes,
I wouldn't have walked down the street.
Again, I mean, I think she'd already taken enough ergometrin to end the pregnancy, because when she leaves Nonna's house, like 1 minute after injecting herself, she's already like got a stain on the back of her dress that Sister Monica Jones sees. And then she's like, oh my God, this woman is clearly in medical crisis. But so I think it was already taking effect what she had taken, and that the ergometrin that she took in the syringe was kind of quote like an overdose or something.
Yeah.
That's my, again, non-medical opinion. But anyways, and again, to me, the fact that she literally snuck into Nonna's house, took it right there and then, when anyone could have discovered her, and risked whatever was going to come from that, again, to me, just heightens the sense of desperation of this poor woman. I mean, she's putting herself at risk on so many levels, and it just shows that there's absolutely no other option for her. She just feels so desperate about it.
Also, can I say, it was really quite clever of her to do use the beauty contest as a diversion.
Yeah.
But then
Do
she
you know
obviously
what my-
clapped in his allotment, so not so bad.
Yeah. Do you know what my first thought was when she collapsed in the allotment?
What?
Oh, she's got lovely earrings in. Go
She
back
did
and
say
watch
that.
them. everyone.
We watched it together, and she said, "Oh, she's got lovely earrings," and I was like, "Yeah." That's your first thought.
Oh my word. Oh my
There's
word.
also a scene, like this is before, earlier on in the episode, where she's holding Teddy, baby Teddy. And baby Teddy is so fat and lush, but also there's a point where baby Teddy is in a vest and it looks like it could be Fred's baby.
Oh
It was
my
so good. Well,
goodness.
anyway, let's carry on this till the end, and then we can talk about the contest. So they
Okay.
then call an ambulance because
Yeah.
Sister Monica Joan alerts Sheila and everyone. So they get an ambulance, and she gets sent to hospital, and it ends up with she's actually absolutely fine in the end. Obviously, she has a hospital stay, but
Yeah.
then she has to leave because she can't really stay. And I was thinking, oh, why can't she stay? But she just stole an ergometrin and
Oh,
basically
there was
did
no
a massive
way.
public
There
abortion
was
in Fred's allotment. It was just absolutely no chance she could stay.
no, there's
I think
no.
from going into the hospital, they're just going to see that they're going to assume it's a miscarriage, presumably.
No, they'll have had to say it's an overdose of ergometrin, aren't they?
Why will they have to say that?
She's laying convulsed on the allotment floor. I mean, they
They
have
have
to
to
treat the
say
medical
what she's got in her
overdose.
system, don't they?
Well, also, I think they have to counteract the ergometrin, because I mean, it's too much. She was going to die of it. It makes all your
That's
it makes
your TikTok medical opinion.
No. I think yours is a bit. No offense, Bex. I think yours is a bit ignorant here. You can't just go to hospital and lie about what you've got taken in your system. You have to be truthful.
yeah, because they're going to have to treat her not just for the pregnancy, but for the fact that she's overdosed on a medication that's really serious.
Oh God, you're as bad as Sister Winifred.
This is the person who saw a medical emergency and thought, nice hearing.
Wait, let's focus on what's important here. The outfit, the glam, the jewelry.
Speaking of glam, seamless. Shall we talk about Fred's beauty contest idea?
No,
Yes, although wait, just one last thing about Magda. She leaves the Turners, but I mean, she was gonna have to leave anyway, but she decides to become a nurse.
Yeah.
yes, and that is very lovely. But Sister Winifred, I need to talk about her first.
Oh,
Because
why?
everybody else is focusing on poor Magda and what a desperate situation she was in. Sister Winifred is the one who pipes up about an abortion on convent grounds and the theft of drugs. I'm like, all right, Sister Winifred, we know what she's done.
Oh,
Yeah, to be
somebody had to
fair.
say it. I mean, you're right, but somebody had to say it. I mean, come on. I think that's another reason why it's like she's got to go. Sorry, but I think that's what that's about.
Yeah, they'd like just to remind us viewers that it's not just about the earrings. So, beauty contest.
Yes.
Violet was going to do a jumble sale, but then Fred had the brilliant idea of doing a beauty contest, which I loved.
Yep.
And Magda and Val are both entering. Magda, I love the way Magda was like, "Yeah, I'll enter." She was just so confident, like didn't know anyone. Yeah, I'll enter. And Val was a bit like, okay. Do you know what really did annoy me though? So I know obviously they're not going to get Trixie in it. She's like 9 months pregnant. But she's like, now that Krista and I are very serious, I had best step aside on this one. And you're mega heavy pregnant, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And then Lucille, tell you what else made me lol. There was a scene at the table, I don't know if you'd have got this, Jen, when Lucille said to Val, oh, you're brave. And it just made me absolutely lol because she didn't mean that you're brave as in you're brave, you're not good enough for it, as in you're brave as in I've not got the courage to do that to Val. But when she said it was like, you're brave. Oh, I didn't mean it like that. Like it was just absolutely lovely. I thought it was a really nice scene. It just felt like something actual friends would say to each other. It made me laugh.
Wait a minute. Lucille says to Val, you're brave for doing the beauty pageant?
Yeah, you're
because
brave.
you have to wear a swimsuit.
Well, we will come to understand that Lucille is an incredibly modest woman.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. Yeah.
It was just the way it was done. I thought it was really well acted as well. Also, Fred's tux, loved it. He
Well, talk about
borrowed it from
James
his bingo
Bond.
caller friend.
I mean, he's like, Buckle, Fred Buckle, and I love that he's like, oh, don't I look so great? And Violet's like, yeah, you really do, but like, hold on a second. And she unbuttons the double-breasted, and then she's like, maybe we just need to move a couple buttons here. He's like, oh.
Also, how incredibly naive of Val to think that she could go to Sister Julienne and say that she's missing an artist's house for a beauty contest where they're wearing swimming costumes. She's like, yeah, or maybe perhaps Miss Blackstale Public House.
Oh, right. I get it. Yep.
Yeah. Why did she ever think that was going to be a good idea? I love the fact that it was Miss Weights and Measures who won.
Well, and I love the fact that Fred was counteracting the whole thing of, like, oh, you just want to look at the girls in their outfits and her head that. And he just kept on talking about how beautiful his wife was and how she was so amazing for organizing all of this. And like his MC skills were amazing.
Super glam in this episode as well.
She
had a full-on blow dry. At one point, she looked as if she'd just been in some sort of wind machine and she had this huge roof on.
Also, did you clock her like baby blue eyeshadow that she had?
Yeah.
So of the time, I don't know what in the world that baby blue eyeshadow was supposed to be doing, but I mean, very, very accurate for the period for sure. It was
you know what else
wild.
I loved? Fred selling all the tickets in the pub.
Yes, I know. He comes
also,
with all the
Violet
money.
was a cheeky bugger this week as well, with poor Lucille, who said she couldn't do it, but she'd help out behind the scenes. Yeah. She basically organised the whole bloody thing.
Well, she gave her a to-do list that literally was 2 pieces of paper stapled together. It just kept going and going. I was like, oh my God.
Violet's profiting because she's got a homemade dress competition as part of it. So she's basically selling her wares. I loved Dr. Turner's advice to Timothy, who's playing piano, just to remember, Timothy, focus on the piano.
Oh, the Violet's there barking orders with glide like a swan, not galump like an elephant. All right, Violet.
Yeah, but Val's walk, that is how I would walk if I was in a beauty pageant.
Yeah.
Fred's comparing was amazing.
And Angela giving the flowers at the end.
Oh, it was so cute. It was so cute.
I like number 6 being inconsolable and the ladies afterwards as well.
She's like, I will dispense tissues and comfort or something like that. I won't do Lucille's accent, but yeah, that was very good. That was very good. Yeah, and Trixie's pink lipstick is just getting chalkier and chalkier as time goes on because she's like so following the trends.
I do love that though. Also, Timothy's cooking, because he was so into Magda, he's there trying his hardest to do cooking. It just made me absolutely laugh.
I know. What did he say? What was the meal they made? It was like volpeshka with caraway seeds and paprika or something like that. It was some like stew or something. It did look really good, but
I think it really showed, because obviously Timothy's had a crush on Magda, and we obviously this episode, those two are just poles apart. Like, firstly, like Magda, the fact that she's had to escape her country. She's fallen pregnant. Like, she's just like, Timothy is just so innocent. I know he's grown up, basically sat waiting in the car for Dr. Turner. Yeah. But he's, compared to Magda, he's just so innocent.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's still a child in comparison to her, for sure. I mean, he's a boy. He does not know about all these things. Like, no. He still like has a crush on her. I mean, I'm sure he's very confused about all of his kind of like funny butterflies in his stomach about her. Like he's figuring it out. He doesn't. To be
really fair, have you seen her? I think I've got him, and I'm not by it at all. But absolutely gorgeous.
She's a beautiful woman. Yeah, I'm glad she had a happy outcome. I feel like we've had other storylines where women in her similar situation did not end up so kind of with a positive future, and she did, and I was grateful to see that she was able to kind of recover and go forward in a good way. And I like that they used her experience to send her into the next evolution, trying to become a nurse and all that. I thought that was nice.
And I'm glad she's still cosmopolitan. She's going back to Paris. She really did enjoy Paris. She's not going back to where she wasn't happy. She was very happy in Paris, so she's going back, and I think that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else we need to cover?
Oh, wait. I wrote this down. What's Whitsun? They say something about, like Whitsun weekend, we're going to do blah. And I don't know what that is. Yeah, what is that?
Now, we spoke about this, didn't we, Bex, when we were together?
I've heard of it. I know I've heard you guys talk about it before, but I don't think I've ever really understood what it is.
It's the English name for the church festival, otherwise known as Pentecost.
Oh, Pentecost. So, like, that's like early. So, like, we're talking like
held on the 7th Sunday after Easter as the commemoration of the descent of the Holy Spirit and the inspiration of the apostles.
Oh, okay. So at this point in the year, we're getting to like May-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Because it did look like people were wearing, not wearing like coats and heavy jackets and things like that anymore. Like people were more in like light clothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, one last point. I loved Valerie's homemade dress. That is the most I have seen that
Well, she won
dress
an award
pattern.
for it. She won a prize. So
She did a great job. I have seen that dress pattern on so many like vintage patterns. I've seen it so many times, like especially that collar, like that folded collar that like is kind of a boat neck that goes up high and everything. It was just it was so spot on. I just loved it. They looked great. All those girls look great.
They did.
Yeah,
I loved it. I did
all.
love that. Right, should we do heroes and zeros?
Let's
Sure.
go.
Who's going first?
I'll go. My zero is going to be the fact that there was no mechanism to keep the Lunts together as a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just thought, and I know that's a really difficult situation because you've got Mrs. Lunt and you've got Wendy with very different stages and very different needs. But I just thought, and they did their best to keep them together as a family, but I would like the state to have done more.
Yeah.
My zero is also Valerie, but I won't go into that.
Oh,
My hero.
I can't believe you're gonna say Valerie.
My hero
Oh
is going to be.
I'll edit that out, Jen.
Good. Only we'll know about it.
I won't. Carry on. Sorry. Hero.
My hero is going to be Mr. Lunt because we think he's very controlling, but actually, I mean, I think he could have done more. He could have washed some dishes. He could have given the kids a bath, but he was trying to protect and keep his family together. I mean, he could have also sought help earlier. So perhaps, maybe.
Yeah, but he was scared because he didn't want her to be taken away like her dad was. So
yeah, but he was being protective. There you go.
He was a very good advocate for his family. I mean, he did the best he could do, and that's all you can ask of anybody, really.
Yeah, my hero is going to be Sister Monica Joan.
Oh,
great, good choice.
She was very, very quick thinking. She was absolutely on the ball. Went and sorted out Sheila straight away. Went and notified. She was great. So good on you, SMJ. My zero is going to be, well, it's the whole situation. We've obviously done that. Becky's was a really good one, but also the whole situation with Trixie and Christopher and everything. I'm really annoyed at Christopher still because I feel like Trixie tried to say this to him at the start. If I'm not ready to meet Alexandra, don't introduce me. But he did. And even then, he was there on the park bench telling her about all Alexandra's problems with wetting herself and everything, while Alexandra's just there with them, like in earshot. I just think, oh, men. Maybe it's just men, but that's my zero. It just annoyed me.
Yeah, I will say I'll give a shared zero. My first of a two-part zero is to the teacher at Wendy's school for just being like, oh, she's clumsy. I'm sorry, lady. Put on some glasses and see what is going on, okay? That child needs more than just being told she's clumsy, all right? Absolutely no. Like, figure it out. That's my 1-0. My second zero is the whole Trixie and Christopher situation, but I feel so bad for Trixie. She was like through the ringer. That's just so hard to deal with something like that. But also, I just like I love the advice that Alexandra needed to come first, but I just also was like, don't tell this man to go back to his ex-wife. Like, I don't know what was going on there, but that was just a weird hodgepodge, and I just thought, no, this is not what you do. And I just felt so much for Trixie, and I knew she was through the ringer, and I just felt for her. So that's my zero. My hero is going to be, okay, you know who I'll give my hero to? Fred and Violet and the beauty pageant, because my God, did we need some of that this week? You know what I mean? Like some lightness, some fun, some glamour. They're such a cute couple. I love them together. Fred is so sweet. Like he came up with that idea, like, I mean, really genuinely out of like, wanting to think of something better for Vi to do than just another bake sale or jumble sale or whatever. He's like, I think you deserve better. This can be a really good, like, exciting adventure for us, like, something really of the times and everything so modern. And then I just loved when he came in at the end and he like pulled her like in a twirl and they were dancing together in the kitchen. Like, I love dancing in the kitchen. I've like historically always loved dancing in the kitchen. So they're just such a sweet, like, cute romantic couple.
Also, special shout out to Lucille for organizing it.
Yeah, like for doing almost everything, like getting the microphone from her church, consoling the women in the bathroom, like having a whole extra beauty kit for everybody, like no doubt, all the moral support and everything for all the girls throughout the whole thing. Like, we just really needed the beauty pageant in that episode because my God, this episode was like so freaking hard and tough. I was just found it like really devastating. And I just am so grateful that we had it. And I really love community events on this show. Like I love when they all get together and people are on the stage and they've got the lights lit and they've got the chairs set out.
Oh,
and then
yeah,
you see
they do-
everyone
they do it so
gathering
well.
and they're all just like looking expectantly and like, you know, it's just so darn cute. And it really makes that, you know, kind of like warm and fuzzy poplar feeling come to life. So that's
Yeah,
my hero.
100%.
It's just so sweet. It's just so sweet.
Yeah.
There
Well,
we
next
go.
week it is series 7, episode 4. So if you want to watch along and then listen along, we'll watch it and then listen along with us. That would be fantastico. Never used that word in my life. Don't know why I've done it. But that would be amazing if you would like to listen along with us next week. In the meantime, if you can like us on Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, Facebook, send us an
YouTube.
email. Yeah.
Subscribe,
YouTube.
leave a comment on podcast platforms.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
See you next week.